Discover the incredible moment a millionaire witnessed a broken-handed cleaner a heartwarming change. Mike stood in the dimly lit hallway of their Chicago apartment building, his breath caught in his throat as he struggled with the mop. The dull ache in his broken hand throbbed with every stroke, mocking him, a painful reminder of the accident that turned his life upside down. Just weeks ago, he was the proud provider for his family, his wife, Sarah, by his side. But now, he felt like a burden, a shadow of the man he used to be. Watching Sarah, a tireless nurse, leave each morning with an optimistic smile broke his heart daily. He could see the strain in her eyes as she juggled long shifts and the household bills that were piling up. As he swiped the mop across the floor, he caught glimpses of couples whispering sweet nothings and children laughing in the streets outside, their joy contrasting sharply with the loneliness he felt. The world moved around him, but Mike felt stuck. His heart was heavy with shame, a mantle he could neither shake off nor share. Then, the sound of new footsteps echoed in the hallway, infused with a sense of purpose. Daniel, a wealthy businessman, had just moved into the building. Dressed sharply, he glided down the corridor, blissfully unaware of the struggles surrounding him. As he approached, he froze, his eyes locking onto Mike, witnessing the struggle to complete the simplest task. "Need a hand?" Daniel asked, feigning casual curiosity. Mike hesitated, the words swirling in his mind. He wanted to decline and curl into himself, but he only nodded. And in that moment, Daniel's initially obligatory help transformed. They fell into conversation, where Mike, despite the awkwardness, shared glimpses of his past life. Daniel listened, genuinely curious, a spark igniting within him as Mike's stories of hard work, diligence, and love unfolded. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. What started as a simple offer to help transformed into a real friendship. Daniel found himself drawn into Mike's world, a world filled with resilience, humor, and quiet dignity. Each exchange opened Daniel's eyes wider to the layers of hardship that existed beneath the surface of the people he often overlooked. He began to feel his own success weigh heavy against the backdrop of Mike's struggles. The luxurious life he led felt suddenly unjustified. As the days rolled into weeks, Daniel faced a pivotal choice. A lucrative business deal was on the horizon, promising to catapult him further into the elite circle he occupied. But with the money came a sacrifice. It meant ignoring the glaring issues faced by neighbors like Mike, who struggled every day to make ends meet. Torn between personal gain and humanity's call to lift each other, Daniel felt the pressure mount. Mike, meanwhile, remained unaware of the internal battle raging within Daniel. As he fought to reclaim his dignity, he clung to the hope that life would turn around for him, that the future held a glimmer of promise. But as the clock ticked down to the moment of Daniel's decision, unspoken tension rippled through their shared space. The future hung in the balance, and uncertainty clung thick in the air, awaiting a choice that could reshape not just their lives, but the very fabric of their community. Mike yearned for recognition, and in a world divided by class and circumstance, would Daniel choose to be the force of change, or would he succumb to the allure of success at the price of his newfound friendship? As the sun dipped low behind the skyline, casting long shadows across the hall, Mike finished mopping with a heavy heart. He leaned against the wall, the pain in his hand a minor player compared to the weight of uncertainty that pressed down on him. He glanced at the clock, ticking methodically, marking the minutes until Sarah came home. Each tick reverberated with a reminder of his fear. How long could they continue this way? He turned to see Daniel pacing, lost in thought. The businessman's usual confidence was clouded, his smile replaced by furrowed brows. Mike felt an urge to reach out, to break Daniel's spiral of contemplation. "You all right?" he asked, voice barely above a whisper. Daniel's eyes snapped toward him. "Yeah, just business stuff." You know how it is, he replied, but Mike could see the truth lurking beneath the surface. Seems like there's more to it. Mike had learned over the weeks that genuine conversation demanded openness, a practice he was slowly nurturing despite the insecurities murmuring in his mind. Daniel paused, the tension uncoiling slightly. There's a deal I was offered that could change everything. It's lucrative. It could set me up for life, but he hesitated. Mike held on to his breath. It means overlooking people like you. Like us. Mike's heart raced, a mix of hope and fear crashing together. You could help me, help us. It's not just about money. Daniel looked toward the window, the city below flickering to life. I know. But my instincts also scream at me that this is an opportunity one can't pass up. I love helping people, Mike, but will helping you really change anything? A weighty silence enveloped them. Mike straightened, determination swirling within him. I've fought hard for my dignity. I just need a chance. We all do. If you could see what it does for someone to have hope, even the tiniest bit, it's worth more than any amount of money. Daniel turned, eyes blazing. You make it sound so simple. But life isn't simple. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. Mike interrupted, a fire igniting inside him. But what do you want your life to mean? Is it just about climbing to the top, or do we get to choose who we elevate along the way? The question hung in the air, thick with possibility. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, visibly grappling with the words exchanged. I don't know if I can change the world, Mike. But I can't shake the thought of you, of what's at stake. In that moment, sparks of clarity seemed to light up Daniel's features. Mike saw a flicker of the man who had offered help without hesitation, drawn to a bond not defined by wealth but by shared struggles. A door creaked open down the hallway, and Mike's heart leaped with hope. Sarah stepped in, her scrub slightly rumpled, a tired glow about her face. As she approached, she noticed the charged atmosphere, confusion flickering in her eyes. What is going on? She asked, sensing the gravity that had shifted in the space. Before Mike could explain, Daniel faced Sarah, an unspoken account of dreams and choices reflected in his eyes. I was just talking to Mike about the future. About what really matters. Sarah exchanged glances between the two men, her brow furrowed with curiosity. Are we talking about family? Community? Or just business? The air was thick with unanswered questions and decisions awaiting direction. Each of them stood at the brink of something new, a potential shift not just within their lives, but extending into the world surrounding them. As they stood together, a single thought rippled through them, palpable and potent. What if they could be the change they wanted to see? But as the shadows deepened, uncertainty threatened to pull them apart once again. Would they embrace this moment, or would they let opportunity slip away? With the night settling in, Mike felt the warmth of hope within and a desperate question at the edge of his thoughts. What would it take to forge the way ahead in faith, not just for himself, but for everyone like him? The room felt charged, each second stretching as they processed the weight of their conversation. Sarah glanced between Daniel and Mike, sensing the unspoken plea heavy in the air. What do you mean by what really matters? She asked, narrowing her eyes slightly, as if trying to peek behind the walls they had built. Daniel straightened. It's about choices, Sarah. Helping people like Mike here and a million others could mean sacrificing my own comfort. But is that the right thing to do? Can I really make a difference? His voice wavered, as if the very idea unraveled some tightly held belief about his world. Sarah stepped closer, her expression softening. You already do make a difference, Daniel. Every time you lend a hand or listen, you're creating those small ripples. But if there's a way to do more, why not explore it? Mike breathed in deeply, heart racing. He wanted to share the urgency of his situation the way he felt it, raw and real. Daniel, it's not just about me. It's what giving people a chance can do. You have the power to change lives. His voice cracked, emotion spilling over. Imagine not just talking about change, but actually being part of it. There was a moment of silence, where every breath felt significant. The city noise outside seemed to fade as they focused on each other. Mike could see the struggle in Daniel's eyes, the pull between ambition and empathy. "Look, I know this is a heavy load," Daniel finally said, looking directly at Mike. "But I've spent my life working my way up for my family. How can I balance that with wanting to lift others too? What if I fail?" "If you don't try," Mike replied firmly, "you already have. I don't expect a miracle, just a chance. We all deserve one." Sarah nodded, the fire in Mike's words igniting her own thoughts. "It's not just about your goals, it's about our collective future, this community. If we can come together, we can help those who need it most." Her eyes sparkled with a mix of determination and hope. Daniel took a step back, his mind racing. "I need to think," he murmured, the weight of their words wrapping around him like a heavy blanket. "That's understandable," said Sarah, moving even closer to Mike, her hand finding his like a lifeline, a shared connection. "But remember, change, no matter how small, can shift lives." As uncertainty hung thick in the air, Mike felt a surge of resolve. "Daniel, we can be a beacon. It's about creating something real, offering hope in a world that sometimes seems void of it. You have the means, we have the voices. Together we can light the way." The room was still now, yet every heartbeat echoed around them. Daniel met their gazes, the conflict within him palpable. Just as he opened his mouth to respond, the shrill ring of Daniel's phone shattered the silence. He fumbled for it, glancing at the caller ID. Mike could see the tension return, taking shape in Daniel's shoulders. "Hang on, I need to take this," he said, stepping away to answer. As Sarah and Mike watched Daniel pace near the window, Mike turned to her, anxiety twisting in his gut. What if he chooses not to act? It was a whisper, but it hung ominously in the air. Sarah squeezed his hand tighter, her voice steady but soft. "We have to believe he will. We're standing at the edge of something significant, Mike. We can't let hope fade now." The call ended, but Daniel remained by the window, his back toward them. They could see him wrestling with the choices laid before him. Mike's heart hammered wildly. What were his thoughts? And then, Daniel turned, the decision written in his eyes. "Guys," he called, voice steadying, "there's something I need to discuss." Mike held his breath, the weight of the moment crashing down. Would it be the breakthrough they were hoping for? Or would the door to opportunity close once more? In that tense moment, they stood on the precipice of change, waiting for the next words that could unravel everything or stitch their hopes together. Daniel took a deep breath, steadying himself as he faced Sarah and Mike. The urban bustle outside felt like a distant echo, the chaotic noise muted by the gravity of the moment. "Okay, here's the thing." His words slid out slowly, deliberately, each one weighted with an intensity that felt palpable. "I've been thinking. I can't just sit back and hope things magically get better. I need to do something actionable." Mike leaned forward, heart racing as he sensed a hint of openness in Daniel's tone. "What do you mean?" Daniel ran a hand through his hair, a restless gesture that revealed his inner turmoil. "I want to create a program, something that connects people in need with those who have the resources to help. I've got the connections to make it happen. I don't want to just talk about change anymore." The words hung in the air, and Mike felt a flicker of hope spark within him. "That sounds amazing. But how? Where do we even start?" "I don't know, but I think we need to gather a group of people who feel like we do. People who want to help." Daniel looked over his shoulder at Sarah, who nodded in encouragement. "It's about building a community, Daniel," Sarah interjected. "We can have discussions, plan outreach events, start small and see where it leads. There's strength in numbers." "Right. Exactly," Mike said, enthusiasm bubbling up. "If we get a few committed people together, we can create a network. We can pool resources and identify those who need help most." Daniel's eyes brightened at their suggestions, the conflict still visible but now mingled with possibility. And we can host workshops on financial literacy, job skills, the kinds of things that empower people to change their situations. A wave of excitement swept through the room. Sarah squeezed Mike's hand tightly, her eyes shimmering with inspiration. Daniel, this could mean so much to so many. Imagine the lives we could touch. Outside, a siren blared, a reminder that life carried on relentlessly, but in this moment, cocooned in their little world, something beautiful was taking shape. The trio began brainstorming, quick calls and texts exchanged, the excitement palpable like electricity. "Let us meet tomorrow and start planning," Daniel suggested, his voice filled with a newfound energy. "We could even set up a social media page to raise awareness." "Let us do it," Mike agreed, a fire igniting in his chest. It felt contagious, this hope. Just then, as if fate had a sense of humor, Daniel's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen briefly, confusion crossing his face before he answered. "Hello?" "Yes, this is Daniel." The words that followed brought a sudden shift in his expression, a twist of concern. As he spoke, the atmosphere shifted from excitement to unease. Mike and Sarah shared a worried glance, sensing the weight of whatever message was unfolding. Daniel's voice grew tense. "What happened? Is everyone okay?" Mike felt his heart sink, emotion swirling. What could possibly be happening now? They were so close to something important, something that felt like the dawning of hope, and yet. When Daniel hung up, the color drained slightly from his face. "It's about my family." There's been an accident. In that instant, the air grew heavy with uncertainty. Hope had flared, but now it felt precarious, teetering on the edge of chaos. "Daniel, what do we do?" Sarah asked, her voice barely a whisper, the adrenaline from before fading. Daniel looked at Mike, his eyes showing a mix of fear and determination. "I have to go. But I need you two to promise me something. Don't let this idea die no matter what happens." As he rushed toward the door, Mike felt the ground shift beneath him. A moment ago, they had been ready to change lives, and now everything felt bleak. "Daniel!" "Wait," Mike called, but Daniel was already gone, swallowed by the world outside. "Do you think he'll be okay?" Mike asked, his voice trembling. Sarah held his gaze, her grip unwavering. "He needs us now more than ever. We have to hold on to that vision he had. We can't let it slip away." As they fumbled for a plan, Mike couldn't shake the feeling of impending change, of lives hanging in the balance, both made vulnerable and powerful in one short moment. What would this mean for them? And for Daniel's family? With questions flooding his mind, Mike felt the journey ahead, filled with daunting choices and uncertain paths. Would they rise to the challenge, or would their dreams unravel like threads pulled from the fabric of their growing mission? Mike's heart raced in the silence that followed Daniel's abrupt departure. The echo of the door slamming behind him felt like a punctuation mark on their hopeful plans. Every second stretched out, filled with unspoken fears and questions that danced in his mind. He turned to Sarah, who was staring at the spot where Daniel had just been, her expression carved from worry. "Did we just lose him?" Mike's voice barely rose above a whisper. "No," Sarah replied, her tone firm despite the sadness in her eyes. "He is still with us, just distracted. We can't let the momentum die. It means too much." Mike nodded, though doubt shadowed his thoughts. The excitement they felt moments earlier now felt fragile, like glass poised to shatter at the slightest disturbance. They needed to act. "What if we just start without him?" Mike suggested hesitantly. "We could brainstorm some ideas, get some preliminary plans in place. If he sees us moving forward, it might help him." He trailed off, unsure if he believed his own words. Sarah's determination sparked in her eyes again. "That's actually a great idea. We should establish a foundation, even if it feels small today. Let us get everything ready for when Daniel is back. He will need to see we're committed. The urgency motivated them, shifting their focus away from the empty space Daniel had left. They pulled out their phones and began writing down every idea that poured from them, practical steps, potential workshop topics, even names for their project. With each shared thought, they felt a spark reignite, piece by piece constructing something solid out of uncertainty. Okay, let us set concrete goals, Mike said, energized as they crafted a timeline. We'll start with outreach, contact local organizations, see who might want to join our cause. He glanced at Sarah, who was scribbling more notes. And we need names. Something that captures what we want to do. Sarah paused, fingers hovering over her notebook. How about Bridge to Hope? It feels like it connects people, right? Perfect. It's what we're trying to build, Mike replied, feeling warmth spread through him. A bridge. Just then, Mike's phone chimed. It was a message from Daniel. His heart raced. Anxiously, he opened the screen. The text simply read, "I'm at the hospital. I'll keep you updated. Thank you." Mike felt his shoulders drop, a mix of relief and anxiety swirling inside him. He's at the hospital, he shared, finding solace in the affirmation that Daniel was safe enough to text, but his heart ached at the uncertainty of what was unfolding for him there. What if it's serious? Sarah asked, her face pale as she absorbed the news. Then we have to keep going, Mike responded, his voice steadied by conviction. We can't let him down. He put his faith in us. They plunged back into their brainstorming. Ideas flowed freely, fueled by a sense of urgency and purpose. Plans began to take shape as the minutes ticked by, transforming into possibilities. They started outlining the structure for volunteers, potential funding sources, and a community outreach strategy. But a gnawing worry lingered just below the surface. What if Daniel couldn't return? What if the weight of his family's troubles became too much for him, causing him to abandon their dreams? As the night crept in around them, shadows deepening in the dim light, Mike and Sarah felt their resolve harden. They wouldn't let the flame flicker out. We'll be here waiting, Mike said. For him, for what's next. Whatever it takes. Exactly, Sarah echoed, her voice cracking but resolute. Then, as they made plans for a community meeting, a light seemed to brighten the room. It felt as if hope was woven into the very air they breathed, binding them together with a purpose that had grown heavier but also more profound. But just as they began to outline their first steps, Mike's phone chirped again. It was another message from Daniel. Trembling slightly, Mike opened it. Something happened, it's bigger than I thought. The room grew still, anticipation thick as they awaited the unfolding of this new twist in their journey. What could it mean? What lay ahead for them now? Mike's heart pounded in his chest. He locked eyes with Sarah, the room suddenly feeling smaller, suffocated by the weight of Daniel's words. What does that mean? He wondered aloud. We need to find out, Sarah replied, her determination igniting again. Let us text him back. Mike nodded, fingers trembling as he composed a response. What happened? Are you okay? He hit send, hoping more than ever that Daniel would reply quickly. They waited in silence, both glancing at the phone as if their eyes could summon a response. Each passing second felt like an eternity, filled with questions that spiraled into every corner of their minds. Mike felt a chill run down his spine. The unknown loomed larger than it had moments ago when everything felt manageable. Finally, Mike's phone vibrated. He snatched it up, heart racing. Just found out that an old family friend is in critical condition. I need to be here for my mom. A sense of solidarity washed over Mike, but it was tangled with worry. He could picture Daniel's face, painted with the blend of concern for his mother and the turmoil of family history. There was so much at stake, and Mike couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to change everything. Did he say which hospital? Mike asked, trying to keep his thoughts focused. Sarah's brow furrowed, and she leaned in closer, brows knitting together like a quilt in the dim light. He's probably at St. Matthew's. That's where all the specialists are. Then we should go, Mike urged. He needs support even if it's just us sitting with him. Sarah hesitated, fear in her eyes. What if we interrupt him? What if this isn't the right time? We won't know unless we try, Mike insisted. This is our chance to show him he's not alone in this. With a shared glance, a silent alliance formed between them. They rose, gathering their belongings quickly. A sense of urgency propelled them forward, an unspoken promise not only to Daniel but to each other. As they walked outside, the air felt electric. The streets were alive with the comforting sounds of cars buzzing past and laughter spilling from nearby cafes, but it all felt distant. Their focus narrowed onto a singular purpose. They hurried to the car, and Mike climbed into the driver's seat, determination firm. Halfway to the hospital, Mike's mind raced. What will we say? How do we comfort him? We just have to be there. Let him express whatever he needs to. And if it's too much, we give him space, Sarah suggested, her voice steady but gentle. The hospital came into view, its harsh lights cutting through the wintry night like a beacon. Mike parked and they shared a quick, nervous look before stepping out. Inside, the antiseptic smell hit them, mingling with the tension in the air. They walked purposefully through the halls, their footsteps echoing like a heartbeat in the quiet. At the nurse's station, they learned Daniel was in room 504. Taking a deep breath, they approached the door. Mike knocked softly, the sound barely breaking the stillness. "Come in," came Daniel's voice, strained but familiar. They entered, and the sight before them gave Mike a lump in his throat. Daniel sat hunched beside his mother's bed, her hand resting weakly in his. Her face was pale, eyes closed, surrounded by machines that beeped rhythmically like a heartbeat of hope mingled with dread. "Daniel," Mike said, his voice wavering. Daniel looked up, confusion mixing with relief. "You came." "We're here for you," Sarah said softly, stepping closer. But the moment hung heavy in the air, and as Mike looked at Daniel's face, he realized something had shifted between them. This was no longer just about their project, it was about family, loyalty, survival. "What do we do now?" Mike asked, glancing between Daniel and Sarah, the weight of their collective intentions settling in. "I don't know," Daniel admitted, his voice trembling. "But I know I can't do this alone." And in that silence, filled with shared uncertainty, Mike could sense a new journey unfolding. Uncharted, but intertwined, stronger than before. What would it mean for them all? As they stood together, their hearts woven together in shared vulnerability, they braced for a transformation neither had anticipated. Just then, the steady beeping of the machines faltered, and the atmosphere shifted. Was this an omen or a sign of hope? The air crackled with tension around them, and Mike felt a shiver run down his spine as they steadied themselves for what was to come. Mike's eyes widened as the beeping halted abruptly, replaced by a dissonant alarm that screamed through the sterile room. His heart dropped. He could see Daniel's face drain of color, a mix of fear and helplessness drowning his usually bright demeanor. "What's happening?" Daniel jumped up, rushing to his mother's side. The machines were sending out a frantic series of beeps, drawing the attention of nurses who suddenly burst into the room. "Stay back," one of them commanded, moving past Mike and Sarah like a whirlwind of urgency. As doctors flooded in, Mike and Sarah exchanged distressed looks. "Do you think she's?" Sarah stammered, the fear creeping into her voice. Mike shook his head vehemently, refusing to believe that fate could be so cruel. "We don't know anything yet. We have to trust them," he whispered, though his own heart was twisted with anxiety. They stepped back, feeling the intensity of the moment wrap around them like a heavy blanket. Daniel's mother was now surrounded by medical professionals, and they could barely see her face. Daniel clenched his jaw, tears brimming in his eyes as he watched them work on her. "Stay with me, Mom," Daniel said, his voice barely above a whisper, filled with a desperation that tugged at Mike's heart. Time slipped into a blur of hushed voices and indistinguishable noises. The world outside continued, but in that room, it felt like they were suspended in a moment of sheer terror. All Mike could hear was the muffled sound of Daniel's shaky breaths and Sarah's soft gasps beside him. After what felt like an eternity, a doctor stepped back, his expression unreadable. The room fell silent, a collective holding of breaths hanging in the air as they all waited for him to speak. "She's stable for now," the doctor said finally, but the gravity of his presence brought no immediate relief. "We need to monitor her closely. She's not out of the woods yet." His words knifed through the thick atmosphere, leaving an aching uncertainty in their wake. Relief washed over Daniel momentarily, though it was tempered with an undeniable worry. "Can I see her? Please, I need to be close to her," he pleaded, his voice cracking under the weight of his request. "Of course," the doctor replied, gesturing for Daniel to follow. The same nurse who had initially rushed in stayed back, ensuring Mike and Sarah didn't intervene beyond. As Daniel moved to his mother's side, a wave of emotions crashed over him. Mike and Sarah stood back, feeling like specters in the chaos. The soft sound of Daniel whispering to his mother washed over them. His words were a lifeline, a thread woven with love, hope, and fear. "I'm here, Mom. You're going to be okay," Daniel murmured, squeezing her hand. Mike felt tears well in his eyes. He couldn't remember the last time he'd seen someone so vulnerable, so desperately wishing for hope. What if Sarah hesitated, biting her lip? Mike turned to her, understanding with a silent glance that they both feared the worst the change this moment had brought. "Just be there for him. That's all we can do," Mike urged, knowing they had to remain strong for Daniel's sake. As time slipped away, they felt grounded by a singular purpose, their bond deepening with each heartbeat, and their resolve hardening in the face of uncertainty. But as they leaned into the moment, a shadow loomed over the door, a figure stepping into the room, unfamiliar yet unmistakable. "Daniel," the voice rang out, carrying a weight not just of concern but of uninvited memories. Mike's stomach twisted as he recognized the intruder, and he thought back to the days when Daniel had confided in them, how this person had become part of that tangled history they'd all shared. What impact would this reunion have on Daniel's fragile moment? As the air thickened once again, Mike felt a surge of anxiety. Would this be a blessing or a curse? Would it pull Daniel back into the shadows, or would it help him find the light? The answer was just out of reach, swirling in the tension of the room as they all braced for what was to come next. Daniel turned slowly, his eyes narrowing as he saw the figure in the doorway. It was his father, Daniel Sr., a man he hadn't seen in years. The memories flooded back, memories that were never easy to face. The anger and betrayal surged inside him, battling against the fear that still gripped his heart. "Dad?" Daniel's voice trembled, a mix of disbelief and dread. His father stepped forward, trying to bridge the distance between them. "I heard what happened. I had to come." Mike and Sarah exchanged quick glances, unsure of what this could mean for Daniel. They wished they could protect him from the past, but this encounter felt like a storm brewing, ready to unleash its fury. Daniel stepped back, his hands tightening into fists. "You don't get to just show up now. Not after everything." "I know, son. I know I messed up," Daniel Sr. began, but his words faded under the weight of his son's scorn. The sound of a distant monitor beeped punctuated the heavy silence, a reminder of the urgency that surrounded them. Mike could see Daniel struggling with his emotions, the hurt and vulnerability battling with a protective anger. "Mom needs you right now," Daniel said, his voice hardening like steel. "You don't get to act like a father now. You lost that chance. Please, just let me be here for her," his father pleaded, desperation clawing through his voice. "I came to make things right. I want to help." Daniel shook his head, disbelief etched across his face. "Help? You think you can just swoop in and fix this? You're not welcome here." His voice cracked, the pain spilling out, Mike felt a surge of protectiveness for Daniel. He wanted to step in, to shield him from both the past and the confusion wrapped up in this moment. But he also recognized that this was Daniel's battle to fight. Maybe it's time to let go of the past, Sarah whispered, softly urging Daniel to see that sometimes peace comes from forgiveness. Forgiveness? Daniel spat, turning towards her. You don't know what it's like to have someone just walk away and then expect everything to be fine. But Daniel Sr. took a step closer, his eyes brimming with an emotion that startled Mike. It's not about being fine. I know I can't change the past. But I can be here now. I want to be here. The silence in the room thickened, every breath feeling like an intrusion. Mike watched as Daniel grappled with himself, the struggle playing out across his face like the world's most painful wrestling match. Mom is fighting for her life, Daniel said finally, restraining his anger, and I don't need you to make it worse. With that, he turned back to his mother, his heart heavy with confusion and rage. The medical team had returned to her side, and the familiar beeping now felt like a cruel lullaby amid the chaos of emotions swirling in the room. Mike wanted to say something, to break the tension that clung to them. He glanced at Sarah, hoping they could find a way to guide Daniel through this. But just as he opened his mouth, the machine next to his mother began to beep irregularly once more. The doctors exchanged frantic looks, quickly moving back into action, a sense of urgency washing over the room. Mike's heart raced again. What was happening now? He could feel his stomach knot as Daniel's face paled, his earlier anger shifting into raw fear once again. Mom! He shouted, desperately grasping her hand. Michael couldn't help but think that they were all teetering on the edge of something monumental. Would they rise above this moment or be cruelly drawn under by the tides of history and unresolved pain? As they stood there, gripped by fear and uncertainty, Daniel's father lingered at the door, silent and steadfast, his own emotions buried deep as he watched the son he failed to protect. What role would he play in this moment of crisis? A silence followed, thick and daunting, as they all held their breath for what came next. In the stillness, a question loomed: would they weather the storm together, or would past hurt separate them once more? The chaos in the room erupted as the doctors swarmed around Daniel's mother, their voices rising over the frantic beeping of the machine. Daniel felt his world narrowing, the only thing in focus being his mother's frail form lying in the hospital bed. It was as if everything else faded, including Daniel Sr., who stood frozen, a shadow at the edge of this unraveling moment. Get out of my way! Daniel shouted as he fought to be closer to his mom. He squeezed her hand tighter, as if that alone could heal her. Panic rippled through him. Please, Mom, stay with me. Don't leave me. The team of doctors worked swiftly, their faces grim with focus, a blur of white coats and urgent gestures. A nurse called for a crash cart, and Daniel felt his heart plummet. It was happening too fast, and he could do nothing to stop it. Daniel Sr. instinctively stepped forward, but Mike held him back with a firm grip on his arm. Let him be, he said quietly, knowing that this was Daniel's moment, his reckoning, not his father's. Why are you just standing there? Daniel Sr. finally broke his silence, desperation driving his voice. He hadn't taken his eyes off his son, seeing the anguish etched there. It was a look he never wanted to see again, one he thought he could escape from years ago. Because you don't belong here, Mike shot back, the protectiveness for Daniel swelling in him. Not now. Not after everything. Tension crackled in the air as the doctors continued to work frantically. Daniel's breaths came in sharp, ragged gasps. The beeping grew more erratic, changing tempo, hauntingly reminiscent of his own heartbeat that raced in response. Mom! The word came out as a plea, raw and desperate. He felt like a child again, scared and alone, wishing for his mother's comforting embrace. A sudden calm fell over the room as the lead doctor, a tall woman with shrewd eyes, turned back to Daniel. We need you to step back, she said gently but firmly. We have to work. No. I want to leave her. Daniel's face twisted in anguish, panic dimming his vision. But he found himself being gently but insistently pulled aside by a nurse. "Just for a moment, okay? We need to stabilize her," she urged, her tone softening the chaos buzzing around him. He looked back at his mother, fear clawing deep in his chest. "Please. Mom, hold on," he whispered, his voice cracking that heartbeat. Daniel Sr. stepped closer, trying to find the right words in apology, a reassurance, something that could repel the anguish gripping Daniel's heart. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "but I want to let you fight this alone." Daniel turned, fury igniting again, but he quickly saw the sincerity in his father's eyes. You think you can just decide that now? You left." A pause settled. The words hung between them, while across the room the doctors were still fighting to save the woman that had held their family together. "Yeah," Daniel Sr. choked out, tears threatening as he looked down at his son. "And I'm here now. I want to face it, with you. I don't want to be the reason you're fighting alone." The doctor shouted for calm again, urgency bleeding into her voice, snapping both father and son back to the moment at hand. A sense of shared determination flickered in the air, yet Daniel stood at a crossroads, uncertain how much he could trust. Could he truly open himself to the possibility of his father being there for him when the hurt from the past still felt like a fresh wound? The beeping slowed for a moment, then picked up again, thrumming with uncertainty. Daniel realized this fight wasn't just for his mother, it was for his family, and maybe, just maybe, it could be an opportunity. Just a glimmer of light shone through the clouds of his pain. Daniel held his breath. There was something about the moment that felt significant, an unshakable urge to confront this tangled web of emotions. Would he fight this battle with the father he had pushed away, or would he shut him out completely? As the doctors continued their race against time, a new question began to form in Daniel's mind. Could the past be mended in the face of this overwhelming present? He clenched his fists, feeling the resolve building inside him. Whatever came next, he wasn't alone in this. But what would it mean to take a step towards forgiveness? The room pulsed with tension, and the stakes grew impossibly higher. Would this crisis forge a new bond, or tear them apart once more? The tension in the room was palpable. Daniel felt his heart pound heavily against his chest as he wrestled with the myriad of emotions swirling inside him. The frantic beeping of the machines filled the air, each sound amplifying his fears. His mother lay vulnerable, surrounded by doctors working tirelessly to bring her back. "Stay with me, Mom," he whispered, squeezing her hand, praying for a miracle. "Daniel, please, listen to me," his father urged, stepping closer, determination etched in his features. "I know I've failed you before, but I'm here now. I want to help." With every word, Daniel's heart twisted. He didn't want to deal with the ghosts of their past, nor did he have the emotional bandwidth right now. Not now. He shot back fiercely. The pain of abandonment mixed with the anxiety of the immediate moment, leaving him feeling raw and exposed. "Daniel!" A doctor called amid the chaos, snapping his attention back. "We understand this is difficult, but we need everyone to step back." The urgency in her voice cut through his turmoil, and he felt his father's hand on his shoulder an anchor. Suddenly, Daniel wasn't just fighting for his mother. He was wrestling with the complexity of their connection. Would pushing his father away truly help? The machines beeped erratically, anxiety spiking in Daniel's chest. He looked back to where the medical team worked fiercely, finally catching the doctor's eye. "What's happening?" The fear in his voice echoed throughout the room. Composing herself, the doctor took a deep breath. "We're stabilizing her for now, but critical decisions lay ahead. It's going to be a long night." As the gravity of her words settled in, something shifted within him. The air felt charged, overwhelming with possibilities. Maybe this was a time to take control not just of the situation with his mother but of his life. "Okay," Daniel said, determination hardening his voice. If we're doing this, we do it together. He turned towards his father, who looked taken aback yet hopeful. But know this, I need you to stand by me, no more hiding, no more running. You stay, or you go. Daniel Sr. nodded, tears glistening. I'm here, son. I promise. In that action, something started to mend. The fractures of their history began to shift under the weight of the present's desperate need for connection. As the alarms finally calmed and the urgency within the room receded, Daniel turned to look at his mother, vividly aware of the fight still raging inside her. You're not alone, he whispered, his voice breaking as he squeezed her hand tighter, anchoring himself to her warmth. Mike and Sarah watched from the sidelines, each feeling the shift radiate through the room. Their journey had brought them here, but witnessing this moment felt like the actual victory. They stood together, three hearts intertwined by their shared hope. Minutes slipped into hours. The hospital buzzed with anxious energy that seemed unending. But as dawn began to creep across the skyline, illuminating the sterile room with soft light, a change settled in the atmosphere. The door creaked open, and a familiar nurse entered with news. You can see her now. Her presence felt like a tether to reality, anchoring them as Daniel led the way. He stepped to the side of the bed, gazing down at his mother's still face. Taking a breath, he leaned in and whispered, I'm here. We're going to get through this together. Tears of relief spilled down his face. He felt the courage to embrace their uncertain future with newfound faith. As Sarah moved beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder, Mike enveloped them both in a supportive embrace. With the strength of their hopes fused together, they became something larger than individual dreams. In that moment of shared vulnerability, Daniel found clarity. Life was about navigating uncertainty with those who truly cared, about choosing to build bridges rather than walls. I'm grateful for you, he said softly, looking from Mike to Sarah, their support a lifeline. We can keep working toward that vision we had. Absolutely, Mike affirmed. We'll make Bridge to Hope a reality. Together. With a nod, Daniel understood that they would confront their battles united. As sunlight began flooding the room, illuminating each face with warmth, he felt a sense of rebirth. The shadows of his past still loomed, but today could mark the start of healing. His heart swelled with gratitude, a reminder that transformation was possible, not just within him but in the lives they could uplift together. Let us do this, he said resolutely. Rachel's eyes fluttered open, misty and confused. In this pivotal moment, a smile cracked through her uncertainty, radiating hope throughout the room, binding them tighter. Change had begun, and together they would navigate whatever lay ahead. This was not just a story of struggle, it was a testament to human connection, resilience, and the unyielding spirit to face challenges head-on. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share.